I'm Sabrina Nelson, and I am in Sydney James' studio in Detroit, and I will be interviewing her for Theorematic.
My name is Sydney G. James. We're in my studio in Detroit, and this is Theorematic. It's actually both. Like, I came into the world as an artist, but it also was something that I developed even to this day. Like, I develop every single day. So I think people are born with natural skills, some natural ability, and some people come into it later. I was very young. I was 3. And but I think I was 5 and then 7 when I started doing the extension class at CCS. When I was 9, I knew I was going to go to college for creative studies for college. So I knew very young. I was, blessed to have a supportive mother in that aspect also. So, like, I was the kid that, it was 1,000 sketchbooks around the house. I doodled in my workbooks, my math books, all of those books that you are assigned and not supposed to write in had drawings in them. Ninjas, cartoons, whatever the case may be. So I was definitely the art kid, but it developed into something more. I wouldn't even call that negative, even doing that, it developed from that. The backstory to art, to what you create, is just as important to me as what you're creating as a fine artist.
Are you talking about how you arrived at it or the concept?
All of the above. Like from start to finish, why I choose a loose canvas versus something that's already, structured, all of that, from materials to what paint you use to what you're painting on. It's important, and I didn't realize that until, I want to say maybe a couple years ago, because I started off as an illustrator, and an illustrator is a commercial artist. So that's when you are hired to create an image and you make money. Like, you're hired. That's part of it. Like, you make money off of telling other people's stories. So when it comes to pieces like that, why you create it doesn't matter, because you're doing it for the client. But when you transition over to a fine artist, the story of why you created is the most important. Because when I made the transition, I was still painting like in a caricaturistic style. I was still painting celebrities. It was
very
still
illustrative.
Yeah, it was still very commercial art like, but in a very painterly fine art way. Yeah. And it wasn't until I discovered my why and why I was painting that I realized the importance of the backstory. And my why is Black women and making us excel, making people see us how we see us or how I see us. Because even when I started on this trail of things, or this Black woman, everything, all Black everything woman, but it had to be like a woman. It wasn't just Black people. It was us. I wasn't painting us in a very positive light either. And I started off with this piece back here. This was like the beginning when I literally painted myself nude. And at the gallery opening, they would place it on the floor at a doorway, and people had the option to walk on it or walk around it. So historically and currently, women of all sorts have been figurative doormats, but Black women are the doormats of the doormats. So I made myself a literal doormat, and it was really a social experiment plus art, but it really hurt me physically. Like, it hurt my chest when I watched people just walk on this, because some people tried to avoid it, like, oh my God, did something fall? They didn't understand the intention. But then some people just walked on it because it's on the floor, it's supposed to be walked on. So I didn't want to do that anymore. Like, I did spread out the series, but I didn't want like my muses or my subjects that I was using to experience that type of angst, because it didn't feel good. So I made a conscious decision to start painting us how I see us, not how I feel like we're treated, not how I think that they see us. I had to paint us as beautifully, even if it's as textured as I do, because I don't do glamour shot paintings. I paint us in like every crevice is a landscape. I paint all of that. So my why and my reasons why I paint the way and who I paint and what I paint is probably the most important part of me being a fine artist now, and it may change, because we change every day, somebody important to me might pass away or go through an ailment and I might change direction, whatever it is. But I think the why behind the art is really what makes it interesting, and it makes you look like you cared about this brushstroke. And that's kind of like the difference between like a commission painting and something that an artist chooses to paint for themselves anyway. Like if you don't have any ownership of whatever the image is, you can kind of tell, because you're going to feel whatever I felt at the moment that I painted it. But even collectors, they want to know your why. Like, because coming from a commercial art background, I even figured out a way in my figure art career, because that's what it's a career, because we live off of this. So I figured out a way to not have to sell paintings per se to make money. I make my money in a very fine art way, still very independent, by painting large murals, or if a client wants me to paint something, you have to allow me to paint what I want to paint. And you still pay me, but I'm just going to paint what I want to paint. Exactly. But now, here of late, like recently, people have been wanting to actually buy the paintings that I've already created, which is kind of new for me, because that was never my intent when I stepped out on this realm, Besides family, I choose to stay in Detroit for like a million reasons. I really feel like Detroit was meant for Black people to be. I feel like this is a Black person's Mecca. And you're right, I have lived in Los Angeles, and I don't care if you were in the ghettos of Los Angeles, you can look up down the street and you will have a perfect view of a mountain, palm trees, all of that. It was a very clean city, a dirty history kind of, it's an inner city like any other, but it's a naturally beautiful city. Like if you took away all of those buildings, all of the houses, all of those 9s and 10s of millions of people, you will have a beautiful landscape. But Detroit is a place that we create our own landscape. And I think I like the ability, because I'm so alpha, to be able to create my own landscape. Like I don't need hills and stuff. I could look around my dining room and have a pretty landscape. I could, take over, which is how actually the street art and the mural started. I could take over a vacant lot, erect art, and create my own beauty. It's plenty of urban farmers here. Even growing up, like my aunts and my grandparents, they had gardens. Like we can create our own here. Yeah, it's about access, and it's about the affordability is cool too, but I really think that it's creative freedom here. Yeah, it's freedom. And I think once people realize, like, it, as far as like the affordability and keeping your costs low, and you can have access to the world anyway. I think financial freedom can create your own creative freedom. Like you could create your own body. Like the world is endless. Like if you keep, so that's part of it too. So it's finance, it's home, it's family, it's access. I think traveling, it just naturally affects the work. Like even how textured your pieces may change, or they might smooth out. They might, I think every time artists see something, whether it's a sculpture in Rome or like a wall down in New Orleans, like a warehouse of walls, like Studio B, it's inspiring because anything is possible. And that little old you can make anything possible, can make it happen because somebody else did, and you can make it happen in your own way. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be a warehouse, or it doesn't have to be a public sculpture like David, in Florence or whatever. It could be whatever you want it to be, but it is possible. And I think that's the best part of traveling anywhere you travel, because anything is possible. Like, I haven't done any countries in Africa yet. That's definitely on the to-do list for 2018. But they literally can make nothing out of sand and dirt and water and like, once you see people, just the act of creation of any source, and people and how they use their hands, and you're looking at their hands, like my hands aren't even clean right now. Well, they're clean.
They're artists.
Yeah, they're definitely artist hands. It's just inspiring. You can go back home knowing, I just saw this. I really feel like I had this idea to do like years ago. I feel like I can do it now. I feel like you can accomplish anything. And like even now, like I'm traveling this year, I'll probably be doing a lot more murals around the country. Starting in February, I'll be one of the participants in Hawaii's Powwow Mural Festival, which is like something I'm super geeked over. So I get to be this Black girl from Detroit. I'm a D girl. Not to be confused with a dope girl, because I've never sold drugs. Or a Dallas girl. No, we a D girl. We're D here. Like, this is the big D, I'm a Detroit girl going all the way to Hawaii to tell my truth on a wall. And I think that's dope as hell. And I think just visually, be it, whether it's social media or little girls seeing me up on a scaffold or a ladder or whatever, seeing me up there doing this, I think that's the bigger piece of the why. Like, that's like a big chunk of the why. And I didn't realize that until like I literally stopped little girls and they're looking at me like, just dumbfounded, like, because it don't make sense to them.
Right.
I recently won the Kresge Fellowship. I was part of the 2017 class of Kresge Fellows.
How many fellows were there?
It was I was one of 9 visual artists, and there were 9 writers and poets that won. The experience is kind of surreal because I'm not going to say you literally don't have to do anything. You just have to do you, and people are honoring you for you have done you, the best you that you represented to them in an application.
That was deep. That was very poetic. I know.
So like it was honored. It wasn't, it was like, damn, like it was just an extra validation. Like always getting a large check is always that, yeah, I'm doing something right. But then getting a large free check that literally all of the body of work that I've already created, and you don't want anything from me except for me to continue being me, that just takes whatever you feel like up to it explodes. Like, it probably made me more humble too. Like, it doesn't stop here. I have bigger things to do.
Because now you have to live up to
exactly
that expectation.
Right. And to them, I've already lived up to it because they're the ones who chose me. But in my mind, I'm like, oh no, this is much more than this. Because there are different, now it's a Guggenheim I got to go after. Now it's it's so many more that I just have to go after,
right.
you know, it's just bigger. It makes you want to go bigger. Yeah. It's like go big or go home, but that's part of the Detroit thing too. Like nobody hustles like Detroiters too. That's another reason why I stay home, like, because it's gonna push you to go further.
On the line and everybody's
depending
on that line.
Yeah.
And if you ain't pulling your part, you messing it up for everybody.
Yep.
So
if I win, then everybody's gonna win.